In this video, we'll be looking at shift scheduling, HPtuners, or HPtuner shift points, whatever you'd like to call shift point adjustment to either make for smoother or more aggressive shifting during acceleration with a 4L60E transmission. As a disclaimer, this video is strictly for educational purposes. Before adjusting any vehicle, please be sure to fully understand any changes you are making. Improper tuning can severely damage a vehicle. Today I'll be using the tune file for my Hummer H3. This information is transferable to many other vehicles using an electronically controlled transmission as well. Here I've opened my tune file with HPtuners VCM editor. I click the trans button. In the transmission window, I select the shift scheduling tab. This reveals part throttle shift, which is based on vehicle speed and throttle position. Full throttle shift speed, which is a simple table based on vehicle speed during wide open throttle, and full throttle shift RPM, another simple table to adjust shift points based on engine RPM at wide open throttle. Let's start with the part throttle shift scheduling, which is where 100% of my driving occurs. This table has two subsections, the top half for acceleration and the bottom half for deceleration. Again, in this video, I will only be discussing the acceleration subsection for simplicity. During acceleration, if I'm wanting to lower my shift points, I can decrease the values in this subsection. This leads to shifts occurring sooner than before and at a lower engine RPM. This would be desirable to an extent when tuning for fuel economy. To make this change, I highlight a row and I can either multiply by a value of 0.95 or subtract by a value of 1 until I reach the adjustment I'm wanting to make. During acceleration, if I'm wanting to heighten my shift points, providing the sensation of a more aggressive driving shift schedule, I can increase the values in this subsection. This leads to shifts occurring later than before and at a higher engine RPM. This would be desirable to an extent when tuning for aggressive performance. To make this change, I once again highlight a row, then I multiply by 1.05 or add the value of 1 until I reach the adjustment I'm wanting to make. Be very careful when considering these changes. During a test drive, if the RPMs seem too high, lower these values. Now we can move on to full throttle shift scheduling, where 0% of my driving occurs. This table has two subsections as well, top for acceleration, bottom for deceleration. I'll use the same principles as the part throttle shift scheduling for tuning in this area. If I'm wanting the transmission to shift at a lower vehicle speed and engine RPM during wide open throttle acceleration, I can reduce the values in this subsection. Inversely, if I want to heighten the shift points at wide open throttle during acceleration, I can increase the values in this subsection. During a test drive, if it seems engine RPM is getting too high, reduce these values. Lastly, we'll look at the full throttle shift RPM subsection. I'll continue to use the same principles as before. If I'm wanting the vehicle to shift at a lower engine RPM during wide open throttle, I can reduce the values in this subsection. To heighten the engine RPM during wide open throttle, I can increase the values in this subsection. During a test drive, again, if it seems engine RPM is getting too high, reduce these values. Plug it into the OBD port. Now I'll hit the right function. Click right. And this is done with the key in the on position. Alright, and it says completed. So now I can close this out. And there we have it. A quick and simple introduction on shift point tuning during acceleration using HPtuners. I will continue to upload more shift point tuning videos as time progresses. Let me know if you have any comments or questions down in the comments section below. Thank you to the support on Patreon. You really make these videos possible. If you're interested in supporting videos like this, consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page. See you next time.